Well, Mr. Weaver's not here either.
But the other Brad.
Mr. Brad's aren't here, so we need to appoint a
Brad's
secretary.
square.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to nominate Lisa Trescott as the acting secretary for the Board of Education meeting tonight. Support? Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Lisa. Would you mind taking a roll call?
Okay.
It's your first official duty.
Ms. Barnes?
Present.
Mr. Hansbike?
Present.
Mr. Hanselman?
Here.
Mr. Stoddard? Mr. Tremontana?
Here.
I'm here. Mr. Weaver? What's that?
All right, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda, public communication for items on the agenda.
Will Thompson?
Don't start timer again.
It's already started. Your clock is ticking.
All right, I gotta hurry up. First of all, I want to thank Deb for posting stuff online. Thank you very much for posting the policies and the financial presentation. That was wonderful. I also wanted to express my appreciation for the opportunity to go to the strategic planning session on Saturday. I thought it was a great opportunity for the school and the community to come together and to have the ability to influence the mission, visions, I want to say values, but it's beliefs for the district. So thank you for that. But what I also want to express is that for me on Saturday, it was also a pretty sad reminder of the mental health issues going on in our school district. It was a good opportunity to sit with teachers and administrators, and it's pretty heartbreaking to hear all the behavioral issues, the struggles that they're having, the need for mental health assistance, interventionists, pretty heartbreaking. But the most heartbreaking of all story that I heard was a teacher expressed that she still had a young kid that to this day will not give up his mask. You know, as a parent and a human being, I have no words to express how sad I am about that and how ashamed that happened. I mean, I don't understand why a kid has so much fear still, that they still feel like they need to wear a mask. I thought it was great. I heard a lot of people say children first. I think that's what we kind of agreed we were all about. I just questioned these last 2 years, did we really put children first? Did we make the best decision? I would say we scared our children to death. We told them if they got COVID, they were going to kill their grandma, which was a pretty horrible statement. We closed our school, we masked our children, we stole smiles from all of them. As a board, I hope you really think about that. I mean, the schools were closed. I know that was the popular choice. We forced them to mask up for a very long time. You know, I'm not a mental health expert, but I mean, what did we think was going to happen when we closed down schools, removed social interactions from folks, and made them mask up? And I just hope everyone has learned something from this, and I hope everyone is dedicated to never closing schools again, especially for a virus that we really knew didn't impact kids. And I really hope no one will ever force kids to mask up again, knowing likely that they are not at risk for this virus. I still firmly believe it was not COVID-19, it was our response to COVID-19 that caused this issue. To this day, we still have a policy for masking, one that's both not needed and destructive to mental health. Yet today, I find it kind of strange that we're working on the dress code policy, and I'm pretty sure I heard last session that it wasn't even necessary. I guess I question how we spend our time, because how we spend our time is important. What we do in this life defines who we are. We should be spending our time on making sure we protect our children's mental health. I would love to have some more reflection on that, what we can do. I would love to have an action plan about how we don't do this again. I would love to hear from some mental health experts to reflect back on what we could do better. Kind of goes back to the let's create the culture of excellence. I think we're all dedicated to that, and I think we could do better. And I'm not here to blame anybody. I think we're all kind of scared, and we did the conservative thing, and we followed recommendations. but we're seeing what happened. And so, thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
your
Will.
time.
Deirdre Thompson.
His routine.
So, just real quick, I wanted to address the proposed policy changes on the grooming, the staff dress, the dressing and grooming in general, the proposed changes for that. The existing language that is in our policy adequately addresses any appearance issues that we would be having in our schools. I don't understand the need for the proposed language in these policies. I am strongly urging the board to vote against the proposed changes to the policies. My understanding that these changes are proposed by MASB. I do not understand what their purpose is or if they have an agenda behind these proposed changes, and just strongly urge the board to vote against these policy changes. Thank you.
Amber Warner.
I didn't really write anything. I didn't know about the meeting until right before, but I agree totally with Deirdre. I would just encourage you to vote against changing any of the words in our policy. I believe that right now, actually, the kids have quite a bit of leeway to do what they want to do in the schools. I hear all sorts of comments and from children that they're able to wear what they want, and I think a few years ago that was kind of overturned, and they started allowing children to make their own decisions on that. So I'm not sure why we need to be going down this road. So I would encourage you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for public comment.
Okay. Move to our consent agenda. It's the recommendation by Superintendent Shawna Spicker that the Board of Education approve, adopt, and accept the following items for immediate implementation. An appropriate action is presented, the approval of the April 11th.
Is there
I had
a
a report beforehand.
emergency operations plan?
That's what I was going to say. Let's move to that report.
This is just a quick report. So we have a EOP, which is the Emergency Operations Plan. And this plan really is, if you think, kind of old school binder, because there are so many supplemental documents like maps and pictures and protocols. And each of the administrators have a binder of the district of the plan. And we have been really working to kind of update that. The main emergency operations plan is a county plan. That way all law enforcement around the county know our procedures in all the districts. So I just wanted to let you know, we do have a safety task force that has been meeting, kind of reviewing those procedures, updating those procedures, really looking through supplemental documents that would be helpful for staff to have, one-pager documents, and trying to create easier access for staff as well as some training for staff. So on May 9th, at the end of the meeting, I'm going to recommend that we go into closed session so you can actually see the EOP. The board president does need to sign off on that we've updated it, and then I thought it would allow for a chance to for you to ask questions or kind of see some of those operations, and that we do have plans for certain situations. It's not a plan that's foiable or one that we talk about, because it does have our safety protocols that are included. So I just want to let you know that this is something we have been working on. We have it to a good place, and I'd like to go into closed session at the end of that next meeting, just so you can see it. I'll make sure you have a copy of it beforehand, but then you'll be signing off on that as well.
Can I just ask who's on the safety task force?
Absolutely. So I put it out to all of cabinet, but obviously we didn't want all 20 cabinet members to have to give up that time. So right now we have Emily Palmentier, who's serving as the elementary rep, Marie Richards, who is the new AP up at the high school, serving as the kind of secondary administrative rep. We have Heidi Bodita, who is a health teacher here at the middle school, kind of filling in for the middle school piece. And then Rick from the director of maintenance is also serving to have the facility kind of representation. And then Brian Depker and myself. I'm trying to think, am I missing anyone, Deb? I think that's everyone. But basically, again, that EOP was a county plan. We're kind of taking it, and then also after our first training that we had, I can't remember if that was, I think that was in January, we had, you know, kind of a whole staff training. Staff were able to submit questions, and then the chiefs and I sat down and went through those questions, and then I took it to cabinet for them to kind of look at them. So we did a frequently asked question and answer and document that we'll be sending out to staff those responses this week, as well as a potential training for May 18th that will be optional. So we had feedback both ways. We had some staff who really wanted to do a simulated training to know how to respond, but then others that were very apprehensive about that. So we were trying to put together an optional training on May 18th that would take the elementary staff through the protocols in the elementary building, and then the secondary here in the middle school. But I don't know if it's public, but one of the chiefs might not be able to help on that day. So we're just kind of looking to see if we have enough law enforcement to actually help with that day. The notion would be that all staff would be trained in the fall, but to kind of have a pre-training so they could explain to others how it was, and then also give us like, well, what do we do in this situation? I may not have the answer for it that time. So that's who's involved, and that's kind of some of the things that we've been doing. But I think the plan is in a really good place, and obviously we want to get that out to staff.
Thank you for taking that on and addressing it right away, early in your time here in DeWitt. Do you know when the last time there was any update or
Well,
training?
yeah, so actually Dieter did a large grant, safety grant back in 2019, and it had to be updated then, and it's something that's really supposed to be looked at annually. And then we're hoping, obviously, with the bond, there'll be different mechanicals that, you know, we have to take pictures of and kind of explain, so it'll be refreshed again once the construction work is completed. But I think the big thing that's been lacking here is some consistency in the language and the training. There's been some fear of some of the protocols. So just so you're aware of, there are a couple of different protocols that we've married. There's one that's called ALICE, and ALICE is an acronym that has gotten some negative feedback. So it's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. And so the counter language kind of scares some people, thinking we shouldn't teach kids how to counter. And then the other is it's called run, hide, fight. And so basically the run is the same thing as evacuate. The hide is kind of the same thing as barricade, lockdown. And the fight is kind of the same thing as counter. So we're really trying to make sure that we're doing age-appropriate responses to those things, but just giving really language and protocol to understand what to do in those situations, because our natural instincts are usually one of three things. It's either freeze, flight, or fight. And we want it to become muscle memory for both staff and students, so there's no freezing, and they know what to do. So.
I have one more question. Is there a communications plan included in that too?
Yeah, so one of the other things that we've implemented this year is the RAVE system. So RAVE is an emergency alert system. So anything that goes on in the city or the township or even the county, they're able to notify us via that system. So right now we've had 2 drills, and so it goes to not only cabinet but some building reps that are in the offices to give them. So if there's let's say a robbery or a chemical spill or something, that comes to the administrators, who can then do what's necessary for the buildings. And then we're hoping in time then we can even have all staff that's involved in that system, to where all staff would get an alert and know how to respond.
I want to go one step further. A communication plan for central office, so that we don't, if the worst were to happen, we don't turn into an Oxford where every single thing seems to be what shouldn't happen, like a statement ready, so it doesn't have to be thought of if something were to happen. So
we haven't really worked on that yet, but I had a new Soups Academy that was on communication last month, I think, maybe this month, maybe April. And one of the things that I brought up is that it would be nice to have a resource of templates that then districts could tweak. So that way, in the event of this type of emergency, you have some sort of document, and then you can kind of make your own. So they said they were already on that, so we were excited to hear that. Not that every letter would work in every district, but that they've taken resources and language into consideration that's been looked at by the attorneys, and then superintendents can kind of tweak and make their own and fit the situation or the district. So that's also a work in progress.
Good.
So, but I'll bring that, and then if you have additional questions, we can kind of review those on our May 9th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to skip over you.
No, it's all right.
All right, it's the recommendation by Superintendent Shannon Spicker that the Board of Education approve, adopt, and accept the following items for immediate implementation and appropriate action as presented. The regular meeting minutes from April 11th, 2022, and the overnight out-of-state trip to the Galapagos Islands for June 15th through 29th of 2022. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This is our second reading of policies. We had a first reading on April 11th, 22 at our regular meeting, and the policies were posted thereafter on the website the following day. And so we're going to be, the following policies will be up for a second read. Policy 1616, 3216, 4216, 5511, 6110, and 6114, and 6325. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
I do have a comment. My background and training is predominantly in employment law, labor law, and policies similar to these related to dress codes and the like. That's predominantly most of what I've done and continue to do. And I just wanted to speak to the last sentence here that talks about the right to dress in accordance with gender identity and the constraints on dressing grooming guidelines. One of the underlying components of adding this to a employment policy that addresses staff and teachers also ties into changes in the law and case law and interpretation in what is protected status. So to the extent that an employee of the school district is protected from discrimination based on sex and gender, sex was expanded to include gender identity, and those types of protections. So to the extent that they have those protections under employment law and the district as an employer cannot discriminate against them on those bases, they do move towards or recommendations, and it's been basically a standard recommendation across many legal departments, employment law, and labor entities recommending to their clients that they adopt language similar to this because it is partially intended to protect the staff's right to not be discriminated against on that basis. And the reason we put it into policy in writing is so that those who are managers, supervisors, or responsible for supervision understand the expectations from their employer not to engage in those behaviors. So they are on notice here, and without notice and without this language, it would be very difficult to hold someone accountable should they, tell an individual that they can't dress in a certain manner or certain accordance, because we don't have a prohibition. We just simply have a broad, consistent with your professional responsibilities. But this helps us to enforce the law and its expansion.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question on just the first policy and the second one, or it says, are they the same thing that we're looking at? Code?
I think one's administrators and one is others, right?
Administrators.
16, 16, and 32.
So
Okay, it's professional staff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
So that's the way the policies
Yeah.
with Neola are. There's a set for professional certified staff, then support
Support
staff,
staff.
and then students, and then overall district policy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Policies are adopted. Public communications for items not found on the agenda. Do we have any more? I think everyone's.
Not unless someone snuck up here. Nope.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, so as far as teaching and learning is concerned, it's been a busy month. I was able to attend several honors and awards ceremony, including the top 15. That was 2 counties wide, and that was just a fantastic event. But I also want to let people know, because I've seen some comments on Facebook, that we do a great job of celebrating all students. So whether it's academics, athletics, service, leadership, character, we do Students of the Month. So it's not just academics that are being celebrated. We're trying to celebrate several avenues and talents of our students. In addition, we had several field trips and activities that had been happening. I was able to make it out to the river to see the 6th grade students release the salmon. And there were a couple of them who just wanted to swim around the stairs, I think hoping that Larry, the retired teacher that allows us to use his backyard, would come out and maybe give them dinner. But the kids had a great time, and it was also great to see so many of the high school students doing their service that day, and there were several of them there helping with that program, so that went really well. And then also on Friday, well, I think throughout the week, the middle school, I think it's 8th grade, was doing their kind of Civil War experience, and there were artifacts from the Civil War in the media center, and we had presenters there, so they were able to see weapons and uniforms and dress, and some of them even tried on the dress from that time period, and it was just really great to see them like hands-on learning and learning about that particular time. And then also just, it's been a time where we're trying to look at staffing, enrollment. There's being some shifts that are moving around because of either people leaving or taking other positions, so we're continuing to work on that. But as a reminder, next week starts staff appreciation, and so those of you, many of you are parents, and I would totally recommend that you let those teachers know who have made a difference, as well as any of the staff here, because we do celebrate all of our staff during this appreciation week. And as a reminder, this Wednesday is Administrative Professionals Day, and so Deb is a rock star, and we appreciate her and all that she does. As far as the bond is concerned, we did have a meeting to talk about scope and sequence because of some escalation costs, so we are reviewing and prioritizing things within that. And then COVID updates, we had one on the dashboard, but we're down to 0 with that 5-day. It makes it nice as far as those cases are concerned. Strategic planning, we had about 45 in attendance to update our vision, mission, beliefs, and goals, and we are in the works of setting up an implementation workshop where I will work with the cabinet to kind of talk about strategically how do we implement different strategies over the next 5 years to achieve these goals. And we hope to have that for the 2nd board meeting in June for final approval. Once we have that approval, we'll do a really big PR campaign to get out that information to everyone, and it really become a part of our branding of our district. And last but not least, the showcase is on June 2nd from 5 to 7:30. I would encourage you to put that on your calendar. We've had a committee meeting, kind of making sure that we have everything kind of lined up. We're gonna, because hoping the weather will be nicer, have indoor, outdoor activities. And we're having Touch a Truck this year, so I'm excited that both the city and township are going to be helping us with having some vehicles there for our kids to see, maybe even the fire hose out, depending on the weather. And we're working on setting up performances. So if you or your children are performing, I know we've got some singers and band performers that we're looking for people to sign up. And we've got a couple of different venues. We have, I think we're going to try to do the commons area, the auditorium, and maybe some outside some entertainment. So sign up.
Why'd you look that way when you talked about the singers? What about this side of the table?
So I know that Brad Weaver's son's got some talent. I've heard your daughter sing, and so there's band somewhere, right? Are you a
Noah's
band?
a drummer, yeah.
Drummer, yeah. So I know that there's talent, and if there's any talent that anybody would like to share, just sign up. And if any of you are talented,
Long since retired.
There shall be no singing or dancing.
I'd love to have you up there performing. So that's it, my update.
All right, thank you. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. You've been supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or adjourned?